One of the most difficult types of animes to review are those animes that hover between the lines of good and bad, having certain elements that are obviously bad, but other qualities that it excels in. They're the type of animes that you want to tell your friends about, but ultimately expecting them to tell you its flaws. Hello audience, my name is Yvern and welcome to Yvern's Box. Today we'll be reviewing the 12-episode long anime series known as Knights of Sidonia, an anime that I do feel falls into that category. Let us begin. To start things off, Knights of Sidonia is in no way the most original anime storyline that we've ever seen. The premise falls into the same category as many other animes, with there being some sort of intergalactic war between humanity and some strange sort of alien life form. Obviously, the main character comes from a rather interesting background, but turns out to be a prodigy when it comes to piloting the giant machines that humanity has built to protect themselves. In this sense, KOS fails to deliver a new story. However, other elements are done incredibly well. The mothership that houses humanity, for example, actually gets affected by external factors like battles, creating an atmosphere of distress, anger, and frustration. At the same time, the inhabitants themselves are divided on how they see the war, adding layers and nuances to the population, making them seem more than just some bland and happy-go-lucky sheep. The show utilizes a non-linear storytelling narration style, revealing glimpses of what to come without presenting everything that happened. While that does add a sort of creative side to the storyline, it ultimately felt to me like having many spoilers within the episodes, which I believe hurt the experience more than anything. With the focal point of the anime being the war between the humans and aliens, the most enjoyable bits of the show was actually the exploration of the mothership Shidonia. Shidonia is such a creative take on sci-fi spacecraft with interesting concepts that I haven't seen in other similar animes. Everything from the political system that they utilize to the day-to-day technologies that are used were highly fascinating to watch, with highlights being the way they tackle certain issues that would usually plague mankind. Now, to see how good the story really is as a whole, we will need to wait for the second season. Once again, Knights of Sidonia falls into the category of anime where many, and I mean many, characters will die. However, again, KOS manages to add a level of importance to these deaths in ways that many other animes cannot. Although not every individual's death is brought to the forefront, it does give a certain level of closure to these characters that could have so easily been ignored. With that said, I am extremely biased when it comes to the main character. I truthfully love main characters that start from nothing but manages to become something. In this sense, Sidonia's Nagate starts with an unfair advantage on most others. However, every character does seem very human, not always sticking to one sort of attitude or behavior. Instead, they actually change depending on the events that take place within the storyline. The characters bring layers and different levels to this strange society that Sidonia takes place in. The minor characters get their own time to shine while also forming this roster that brings life to the show. After all things are said, while the unimportant characters aren't half bad, there are also very little stand-out characters. None of them really fit the bill of the well-written and well-rounded characters. While the average level of the characters was rather decent, most of these characters will probably not remain memorable after the show is done with. Of all the factors that come into play for rating this anime, aesthetics is by far the most complex and hard to grade. Polygon Pictures, the studio that brought the anime to life, chose to utilize CGI for all of the show. Now, CGI is a very strange factor in anime. It is applied to a wide variety of them who utilize it to fulfill different needs that would otherwise not be able to easily be fulfilled. However, animes who are all done by CGI are rather rare, and Knights of Sidonia is one of those. I have to get out of the way that the animation style does take a little time to get used to, the first episode being the hardest, but overall the work is actually quite impressive. CGI does bring along many advantages, and the fact that it can so easily create anything the mind can imagine is a major plus. The scenery in the world of Sidonia is splendid, with a great amount of detail being put into every little thing. Now, let me emphasize again that the CGI does need some time to get used to, but once you do, it becomes easy to realize how simple yet nice everything actually is. With that said, the faces are by far the hardest part to digest for me, but even I got used to that near the middle of the series. The sound is great and everything seems to be on point. The little beeps to the big explosions fit in perfectly. Even the intro is strangely catchy. Overall, I believe that CGI is a good choice in terms of context. Polygon Pictures is a studio whose bread and butter is CGI, and I'd rather see something that they felt comfortable in making than something that they aren't. While Knights of Sidonia does somewhat fall into the category of animes that really can't fit their story into its number of episodes, the simple fact that a second season is incoming really does help alleviate that pain. Knights of Sidonia is an anime that resembles so many other animes in many aspects, yet differs from them in such a way that it feels unique enough. Now, to summarize, it does have a rather solid story and premise, decent enough characters, and a rather refreshing take on aesthetics, and overall is more than acceptable. With all that said, by compiling the scores I've handed to Knights of Sidonia in the categories of story, characters, and aesthetics, we come to an overall score of 70%, making the series as a whole a good anime, one that should be watched if given the opportunity. Thank you all for watching my review of the anime known as Knights of Sidonia. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, please leave a like or subscribe, since that does go a long way in motivating me to make more content. Anyway guys, thank you all for watching. This has been Yvern and my box.